Welcome back to Split Decision. This week on episode 18, I'm going to recap UFC Vegas 81. Then we're going to go to Abu Dhabi, where we'll be seeing UFC 294, Makhachev versus Volkanovski 2 for the lightweight belt. No top 5 this week due to Christian being under the weather. And then I'll cap everything off with our weekly football preview for college and the NFL. But first, a shout out to Elite Sports for sponsoring this episode. Go to elitesports.com for all your jiu-jitsu gear, gis, rash guards, and more. All right, let's go. All right, so the main event for UFC Vegas 81 were featherweights Edson Barbosa versus Sadiq Yusuff. Me and Christian both picked Barbosa to win the fight, so we had a little clairvoyance there from a recent tough time on the betting and picks brackets that we've had going on. This was a very exciting back-and-forth fight that I don't think took anything away from either fighter. Barbosa was nearly knocked out in the first round, giving Yusuff a 10-8 on the scorecards. But then he rallied big in the second. He composed himself, walked Yusuff down with a lot of pressure, had a lot of body shots, leg kicks, really stayed composed. In the third, he himself almost knocked Yusuff out with a wheel kick. Landed very clean, very flush, and then he could just continue to dominate. That gave him all the confidence moving forward. Then by the fifth round, Barbosa was able to control, he locked in a couple takedowns, controlled the round heavily, secured the unanimous decision victory in this heavily contested battle, in my opinion. Christian's not here this week. He's sick. Don't know what happened to him, but that kind of is what it is. I had a few thoughts for this, kind of who's next, in my opinion. Both were already in the top 15 in the featherweight division. Either one, I think Yusuff isn't going to drop much. He might fight Giga Chikadze, maybe Bryce Mitchell, Charles Jourdain off a win. I was even thinking Alex Caceres, but he has a broken bone in his arm, so he has to recover for a while first. In my opinion, expect Barbosa to be fighting, at the end of the year, probably not, but, February, March, maybe. We'll see. A less than thrilling opening to the co-main event for Jennifer Maia and Vivian Araújo. It was very cautious for both of them. They were trying to figure out timing, figure out how they were going to get their shots. I believe Araújo won the round with a few of those clean shots. Like I said, it was a round for figuring out timing, testing range. By the second, Maia really found herself having to defend submissions on the ground. And, Araújo poured on, majority of the control to win that round. And at this point in the third, Maia needed a finish to win. Araújo never in trouble. She just never needed to change her game plan. It was this judges' scorecards. She was effective in her grappling exchanges. She had well-timed strikes. She won 29-28 unanimous decision. It was a well-fought victory for her. I had Maia winning, Christian at Araújo. Vivi is probably what would have been better to have been said, since I can't pronounce any of her name. Vivi won the fight. Good props to her. She's not a top 10 fighter at this point, not a top 15 fighter at this point. It's kind of open for who she could be fighting. In that division, it's kind of a toss-up. There's a bunch of people vying for the belt. It's really just kind of left in the air to see who she's going to fight next. But with a unanimous decision, she didn't take a lot of damage. We could easily see her fighting towards the end of the year. Similar to Chris Gutierrez, Jonathan Martinez leaned heavily on his leg kicks in his fight against Adrian Yanez on Saturday. From the get-go, he immediately attacked the legs heavy, affecting Yanez's mobility, and using that really as his nod to press heavy forward. That almost was his undoing. Yanez almost caught him with a couple nasty blows in those exchanges. But Martinez resettled himself, pressed forward, effectively attacking the legs. He actually won the fight TKO via leg kick in the second round. That's really dangerous to do. He said after the fight that he wasn't very happy. He was hoping the ref would call it earlier. He felt bad. But, it's very effective when the opponent's not checking your leg kicks. He did almost get caught. So, if somebody doesn't get hurt bad by one of those legs, maybe he gets knocked out in that case. We'll see. I think for him, he could be fighting a Rob Font next, maybe an Umar Nurmagomedov, maybe a Ricky Simon. We'll see. He didn't take a lot of damage as well, so he could be fighting at the end of the year, maybe the beginning of 2024. They did just schedule some fights for the Leon Edwards, Colby Covington 2 in UFC 296 in December. So that could easily be a fight for Jonathan Martinez to fight. Michel Pereira took on Andre Petroski on Saturday. In his previous attempt, Pereira missed weight by 3 pounds. He was supposed to fight Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He missed weight by 3 pounds, so he moved up to the middleweight division. That proved the absolute right decision for him. He stopped Petroski right after the first minute of the first round in his fight. He connected almost immediately with a barrage of strikes. It was a monstrous fury. I don't know why he didn't move up before. Maybe he just thought he could utilize that power in a smaller division, and for a while he could. And maybe the weight class now is just kind of ready for him to unload upon. This was his first fight in the division, so don't expect, a top 10 opponent right off the bat. He does, in the middleweight division, there is some contention. There's multiple people that would stand in his way of a title shot. So he has a long road to carve ahead of him. Dana does not like it when people miss weight, especially by 3 pounds. So looking at that, I'd like to see both of these fighters, honestly, Michel Pereira and Andre Petroski fight, very soon. Neither one Petroski did get knocked out, so maybe he needs to take 3 months off. Maybe he'll fight February, March. But Pereira could definitely fight November, December at either the next, UFC Vegas in the Apex or UFC 296. Speaking of missing weight, Christian Rodriguez missed weight by 4 pounds, had 25% of his purse taken and delivered to Cameron Simon, but he still got the victory. Granted, Cameron Simon came in looking much smaller, significantly smaller than Christian Rodriguez. And in my opinion, Christian Rodriguez should at least get a point deducted. If you're missing weight by 4 pounds, that's damn near another weight class. I think it's cheating in the highest regard. I don't think the fighter should be allowed to fight. And if he does fight, 100% of his purse should go to the other fighter. It's disrespectful. Get out of the fight if you miss weight by that much, at the very least. Rodriguez did put on damage early, secured a takedown. That put him up in round 1. Despite close second and third rounds, Simon didn't do enough to get the decision. Rodriguez did hold overall control, and the damage to Simon really did show by the end of the fight. It was a good fought fight by Christian Rodriguez, but it does leave you to wonder how much of that is due to the weight discrepancy. Of course, Simon gets to put on some weight after the weigh-in, but that's 4 pounds that Simon might not have even had to cut at that point. So I'd be interested to know what happens to Rodriguez for the future. ChatGPT went another stunning week in UFC, going 4-1. Christian went 1-4 in UFC picks. I went 2-3. It was pretty exciting. Edgar Chairez was canceled. They had to, cancel that one last minute, so we didn't get anything kind of out on that. I went 0-5 in total bets for the week, so that's going to be fun to look at. Christian went 3-1-1 in bets. Had one canceled in the UFC, had his win, Arhuyo Maya, over. I lost UFC bet of Simon moneyline. Maybe we need to look at just placing the same picks and bets, or maybe the picks of ChatGPT as our bets to see what we can do there. For college football, I went 2-3 in picks, so Christian beat me in picks at 4-1. And for NFL, I went 3-2. Christian went 2-3. Bets, like I said, were 0-5. I thought the Oregon Ducks were going to win. They did not. I thought the USC Trojans were going to beat Notre Dame. They did not. Christian was correct with Oregon State. The Beavers money line. But his only loss of the day for betting was USC with me. He thought Caleb Williams and the Trojans were going to be able to trump the Fighting Irish. Moving on to last little three bets we had. My other two losses were Lions versus Bucks over 43.5. That was a low scoring, I think 37 or 27 point game. Not good. And 49ers covering 5.5. They actually lost. Christian McCaffrey did get injured after scoring his touchdown. So we'll see if he can extend his streak another week or if it gets paused due to injury. Wholeheartedly, not a good week for me in betting. It went and moved me to a 35-29-2, Christian to 36-30-0. Overall, like I said, not good. But, it's my podcast, so we'll be able to continue as long as we want. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with a preview of UFC 294. Alrighty, we have an early UFC card this week. UFC 294 is going to be in Abu Dhabi. I think the main card starts at 2 p.m. Central Time. I'm not really concerned with Eastern Time, Pacific Time, any of the other ones because y'all can Google it. Kicking off, Saeed Nurmagomedov taking on Muin Gafurov. I think this fight was chosen for Abu Dhabi for a reason. You have a more or less heavy favorite, minus 230 in Saeed Nurmagomedov, and a plus 190 there. Saeed comes in 17-3, 4 KOs, 5 subs, 8 decisions, losing only 3 times by decision. Gafurov comes in 18-5, 10 KO wins, 7 submission victories, and 1 decision victory, losing 5 times by decision. Neither of these guys have ever been finished. Christian and I both picked Saeed Nurmagomedov. I think this fight is going to be a heavily weighted fight, for all of the favorites. Because all of the favorites, this is going to be their home turf. Both fighters have come off a loss, but I think a win here is going to mean more for Saeed Nurmagomedov. And on this one, I'm not picking against someone with a name like Nurmagomedov, even though he's not related to Khabib. So with that, that's going to cover the first fight. It's going to be exciting. I'm not going to be surprised if we see a KO or a submission. I don't think we're going to see a decision here, so it may be something to look at placing an under on the fight. Our next fight is Ikram Aliskerov. He's the heaviest betting favorite of the night, coming in at minus 600 money line. He's 14-1 in his career, winning 5 times by KO, 5 times by submission, and 4 times by decision, only losing once, and that was a KO loss. He's facing Warley Alves, plus 430 underdog here. Professional record 14-6, 4 KO victories, 6 submission victories with 4 decision victories. Lost 2 times by KO, 1 time by submission, and 3 times by decision. He's lost 3 out of his last 4. 1 KO, 1 sub, 1 decision. Alves needs to step it up to win in Abu Dhabi. I don't think this is his destiny to win here. With Ikram Aliskerov, he's only lost to Khamzat Chimaev. I think that kind of tells you everything you need to know. He is that dude, or at least one of those dudes. Is that enough, though? Is the home turf for Aliskerov gonna be enough to help secure him this heavy favorite victory? I do believe it will. Christian also believes, like I said, he's out sick, so I'm just going to be relaying all his picks this week. I think Ikram Aliskerov is going to win this fight by knockout. I think it's going to be A pretty quick fight. Another one that I think we can bank on the under for. Magomed Ankalaev versus Johnny Walker. Magomed Ankalaev comes in minus 350 money line favorite. 17-1 in his career, winning 9 times by KO, 8 times by decision, 1 loss by submission. He also has 1 draw in his career. Johnny Walker is 21-7, more wins, more losses. He's a plus 275 underdog here with 16 KO victories, 3 submission victories, 2 decision victories, losing 4 times by KO, 1 time by submission, and 2 times by decision. Look, I know Johnny Walker is going to be facing some adversity here. It's not his home crowd. He's not favorited. He's facing a tough fighter, but I don't think we can count him out. I think he's crafty. I think he has monster power, and I think he can submit you if he absolutely has to. Ankalaev has never had to show his submission skills, but he has lost by submission. He also drew his last time out against Jan Blachowicz, which I understand that's a whole different ball game. It's a whole different monster. But I think it's worth noting that since losing to Paul Craig by submission in 2018, he is a completely different fighter now. I pick Johnny Walker to win the fight. Christian picks Magomed Ankalaev to win the fight. I'm not sure what's going to happen here. This could be a complete toss-up, but a lot of people are going to be riding with the moneyline favorite, Magomed Ankalaev. This next fight is definitely going to be an electric one, no matter how long it is. We have Kamara, the Nigerian Nightmare Usman, versus Khamzat Bors Chimaev. Perfect in his career so far. Chimaev has stood the test, defeating everybody, no matter how he's had to do it. 12-0 in his career, 6 KO victories, 5 submissions, 1 decision. He just wants to smash, in his words. Kamaru Usman is 20-3, 9 KO victories, 1 submission victory, 10 decision victories. He's been great. He's a legend in his own right. People has completely flipped on him after his losses to Edwards. But I think outside of this specific match, he could still fight and win against anybody. This is going to definitely be an action-packed fight. While me and Christian both believe Chimaev is going to win, I see an explosive finish happening. I don't know if it's going to be another out-cold knockout or if it's going to be a submission from Chimaev, but I think Chimaev is going to finish the Nigerian Nightmare. So, and for actually a lot of these fights, I think most of the main card for UFC 294, I think the judges are more or less going to be able to kind of sit back and enjoy the ride like fans. With a win here, it would definitely submit either guy into the top contention for a title shot, whether it be Usman or Chimaev. It stands to reason that, especially an impressive performance here, would get you the winner of Covington Edwards, or you'd be fighting sooner against Bilal Muhammad or somebody like that. Chimaev's already ranked up there in the top, so if Usman wins, it stands to reason that if Covington wins the belt, he could be fighting Covington next. Or if Edwards wins or Covington wins, it doesn't matter. If Chimaev wins, he's fighting for the title after them. All right, so the main event changed last minute. Islam Makhachev will now be fighting Alexander Volkanovski for the second time. Makhachev comes in 24-1 in his career, 4 KO victories, 11 submission victories, 9 decision victories, only losing once by KO. Alexander Volkanovski comes in 26-2, 13 KO wins, 3 submission victories, and 10 decision victories. 2 losses, once by KO, once by decision. One of those losses to Makhachev by decision. The featherweight king Volkanovski is getting his second chance to be a 2-time division champion. Charles Oliveira's out. He split his eyebrow. He had to get stitches. Not reasonable request for him to fight, especially, splitting his eye a week before. That just begs for Makhachev to retain the title with no contest. The last time Makhachev fought was against Volkanovski, so you have to understand that he's going to know the game plan and know the resilience that Volkanovski has. The odds coming in last time were Makhachev minus 310, minus 330, I believe, money line. Now it's 260. It's dropped a little bit, even with a victory over Volk. I think in that amount of time, Volk has proven a lot. He's proven that he's resilient. He's determined. He's not going to be just choked out. We saw that in the Ortega fight. I just love to bring that one up because I'm not a big Ortega fan. But I think Volk has what it takes to win this fight. I think him rebounding well, he's going to win. My pick for this fight is Alexander Volkanovski, but he will not be able to win this fight by decision. He is going to have to finish Makhachev. Christian picked Islam. I wholeheartedly agree it could be an Islam night, but I do believe that Alexander the Great Volkanovski comes in and finishes Makhachev in his home turf. Next up, we're going to be taking a look at our college football preview. But first, don't forget to head to splitdecisionpod.com to check out all of our recent episodes, our merch, social media. Go follow us there, Split Decision, on all social medias. All right, college football preview time. All right, our Week 8 coverage preview for college football. All right, first we have number 7 Penn State Nittany Lions, 6-0, perfect so far, taking on the number 3 Ohio State Buckeyes, also 6-0, also perfect. Ohio State's favored, moneyline negative 185, so a slight favorite coming in. Over under 46.5. Seems kind of low for a college game for me. What do you think, Christian? Oh, yeah, he's still not here. That's cool. So, look, the Penn State Lions have the best passing defense, allowing the fewest first downs. They also are topped in points scored per game. The Ohio State Buckeyes defense is just as good. But Ohio State shouldn't have as many running back issues this week. I believe Ohio State's going to win. I don't know much about college football. Christian's generally better at college football picks than I am. But I will say, Christian thinks Penn State's going to win. So maybe I don't know anything. I do know that Ohio State's the ranked 3 team, and Penn State has a very good defense. So we'll see. Now, we don't cover all the college games or all the NFL games or all of the UFC fights. We cover either our favorites or just the main cards or really whatever we're feeling. The second game we have to cover, number 17 ranked Tennessee Volunteers, 5 wins, 1 loss. That loss is against the Florida Gators. Taking on the number 11 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. 6 wins, 1 loss. That loss is against the Texas Longhorns. Alabama's favored, minus 350 money line with an over-under 45.5 points. Alabama's also favored to win by to cover 8.5 points. Alabama's 4-0 in the SEC. They're not playing the best in the quarterback position or their defense, but they've just, managed to only lose that one game. Tennessee's team beat Alabama last year, but lost a bunch of important components in the offense. At least that's what the Google's telling me. I believe Alabama's going to win this game. Christian still has no verbal opinion because, once again, he's not here. But he agrees. He thinks Alabama is going to win. I don't know if it's going to be a defensive game, but I do think that Alabama is going to move to 7-1. All right, for our next game, we have the number 16 Duke Blue Devils, plus 425. They have 5 wins, 1 loss. That loss is against the Dame. Just kidding. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Over under 49 on that game. They're going to be playing a football game against the number 4 ranked Florida State Seminoles. They're perfect 6-0 in their season. They're favored to cover 13.5 points. Minus 600. money line. Duke hasn't allowed more than 14 points in their wins this season. They've run the ball for an average of 198.5 yards per game. Florida State is 12th in yards per rush at 5.5 yards per carry, and still undefeated in their season. They have a more high-powered offense here. I think FSU is going to win. Christian agrees that FSU is going to win. It's just a matter about by how much. I'm a betting man, but I don't understand college football betting, and I can't seem to get a handle on it. I'm going to just go ahead and pick FSU. Christian's going to back me, picking FSU as well. Moving on to our next game for college football is going to be the Utah Utes, 5-1 so far, only losing to Oregon State. And they're playing the USC Trojans, 6-1. They lost last week to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. USC is favored by 7 with an over-under of 56, kind of showing that this is going to be a higher scoring game than any other one I've talked about so far. USC is favored with a money line of minus 250. I believe Caleb Williams is going to be the first overall draft pick in next year's draft, but it doesn't mean that Utah can't win this game. USC's defense is not very good, so if they can find that ability to give Caleb Williams some pressure, I think he's going to make some mistakes. I think he could throw a couple picks. Now, I'm not betting against him. I'm not picking against him. I think USC is going to win. But if the Utah Utes are going to win, they need to stop Caleb Williams just like Notre Dame did last week. USC's defense is not very good. They allow 30 points per game. You can't have that if you're going to win a national championship. It just won't work. All right, so the last game we're going to be looking at, or I guess the last game I'm going to be looking at, y'all going to be listening to, will be the Clemson Tigers taking on the Miami Hurricanes. Clemson is 4-2. They lost to Duke and Florida State. Florida State's a respectable loss. They're a powerhouse this year. And Duke is playing for Florida State this week, so that'll be interesting. Hurricanes lost to Georgia Tech. They fumbled when they should have just knelt and lost and won the game, but they lost. They also lost to the Tar Heels last week. Not a bad loss there, just, they got beat. Clemson's favored in the money line, minus 175 with an over-under of 48.5. So it kind of is a guess, really, of who's going to win this one. Clemson's lost some tough games. Florida's lost some tough games to Georgia Tech and to North Carolina. I think Miami losing back-to-back games, but for totally different reasons, shows that, that they're not on the wrong track. They have some coaching errors, but what does that leave your players with? Are they going to trust the coaches? I don't know. Clemson has a middling offense and a middling defense. I honestly think either team can win this one. Christian thinks Clemson is going to win. I honestly think the Hurricanes are probably going to win. I don't think they're going to lose 3 in a row, especially to a Tigers team that, they haven't had a great passing attack. They haven't had a great rushing attack. Like I said, middling offense, middling defense. But that's also the problem for the Hurricanes. Billy Napier's probably on the hot seat here. He needs to figure it out. He doesn't have all the time in the world to get a good Florida team, built. Clemson, this is their team to beat. Stick around. We have a couple more things to knock out today. We have the NFL Week 7. We'll be talking about a few games. I'm going to do a modified top 5, and I'll close it up with whatever I feel like doing. All right, kicking off our NFL football Week 7 preview, we have the Detroit Lions. They're 5-1 so far. They're taking on the Baltimore Ravens, 4-2 so far in the season. Baltimore has a spread covering 3 points at home. Over under 42. Baltimore money line of minus 6.5. Lions plus 140. Lions have been on fire this season. Amon-Ra St. Brown, as well as Jared Goff and Aiden Hutchinson on the defense. Baltimore has been solid, but they keep dropping the ball. The receivers need to get hands to win these close games. I think the Lions are going to win here. That combination with Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown is opening up the rushing lanes for the team. And also the miscues with the Ravens. I don't think you can fix that in a week. I don't think the receivers are just going to miraculously start catching the passes that Lamar Jackson is now throwing accurately. So having to lean on Lamar to run the ball so heavily, I think that's going to be the crutch that a better defense with somebody who tracks the ball well like Aiden Hutchinson, I think that's going to prove that the Lions are going to win here. I think the Lions being plus 140 is, a big gambling corner love triangle. I'm putting all the money I have on Lions to win this game. Christian's taking the Ravens, so we're split up on a bunch of picks this week, probably a bunch of bets. I'm excited to see where everything goes. Like I said, I'm taking the Lions. Christian's taking the Baltimore Ravens. All right, so next we're going to be looking at the Buffalo Bills, 4-2 so far, versus the New England Patriots, 1-5. Bills have been very good. They lost some close games. They lost last week to the Jets, which that sucks just overall. Stephon Diggs has stayed very, very reliable, but Josh Allen has not found his last season form or his groove yet for this season. He's played well, just not Josh Allen well. The New England Patriots have been absolutely abysmal. Mac Jones has been bad. They've had a couple highlights, but they have not been winning games. Their defense has not been good. Honestly, the whole team has just been surprisingly bad. The Bills have a spread here of -8.5, over under of 41.5. I think the Patriots are probably going to cover that spread, but I think the Buffalo Bills are going to win. -400 of the Bills money line, plus 310 is the Patriots. I think don't even worry about the Patriots winning this game, especially with the Bills losing last week. I think they're going to right the ship, come back and win. I think the Patriots are easily one of the worst teams in the league, and this is not something that we could expect from Bill Belichick. It must have something to do with that lighthouse that they, just built in the stadium. Honestly, everything mixed with a middling rushing team, middling rushing from James Cook, all his options, nobody really standing out there and just making the rushing field their own. I think that's been one of the Bills' problems. I still think the Bills are going to win here, but they have some things to figure out before they'll be able to compete with teams like the Miami Dolphins, the Chiefs, the Eagles, even though the Chiefs haven't been playing as well as they could be. All right, so we have another fun one now. We have the Los Angeles Chargers. Lost last week to the Cowboys in a tough game. Another defensive game for the Cowboys. Great showing by them. Taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. They're 5-1. They beat the Broncos last week. Terrible Broncos team. Don't know what's going on with Sean Payton and Russell Wilson over there. Kansas City's favorite to win. -250 money line. Chargers with plus 200 dog here. Over under 50 points. This could be one that could be very high scoring. If it were last season, honestly, football has been a little weird this season. A lot of the superstars that we're used to seeing just haven't really shown themselves so much. Like Patrick Mahomes only scoring 19 points against the Broncos. Very, very weird. Kansas City has a 5.5 point spread here. I think the Chargers could easily, not easily, but they could definitely cover that spread. Justin Herbert has always had trouble with comebacks. With Patrick Mahomes not playing to his usual caliber, I think it leaves the Chiefs in a significantly vulnerable position that they're not used to. And that's not just against the Chargers. That's against every team so far this season. And I believe if Justin Herbert can score early, that's his best shot to win this game. He's not the comeback kid. He's not the fourth quarter clutch guy. He has to get ahead early to win games, and that's fine. The Chiefs' defense have allowed some of the highest points per game so far this season. So, if the Chargers were to win, that's their method to victory. Scoring early, and I know it sounds dumb, scoring. Yeah, you have to score to win. But I'm talking about marching down the field, making a statement against a team that has let up points already. You do that first, you force a couple stops, you get ahead, you can beat the Chiefs. Although, I still think the Chiefs are going to win. Christian agrees. He thinks the Chiefs are going to win. It's hard to bet against somebody like Patrick Mahomes, who, in any point of the game, it seems like he can just turn around and throw 3 touchdowns if he needs to. Alrighty, so second to last, we have Jimmy Garoppolo's Las Vegas Raiders, 3-3 so far, taking on the Chicago Bears. Pretty bad so far. Justin Fields, 1-5. Raiders have a 3-point spread favoring them, over and under 37.5 points, begging for this to be a no-scoring game. Moneyline favorites, 160 Las Vegas Raiders. The Bears, plus 135 dogs. Justin Fields currently has a dislocated thumb. I don't know what that means as far as how he can throw the ball or handle a ball, but I know your thumb is used for gripping things. Both teams have below average offenses and defenses, but they also shine at times. Like Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, Justin Fields, you need to get the ball in those guys' hands, or keep the ball, I guess, in Justin Fields' hands. He needs to get the ball in his receivers' hands. But those guys need to be able to control the game, control the ball to win this game. I think the Bears are going to win here. Christian agrees the Bears are going to win. They put up a strong performance against the Vikings, who were especially bad this year last week. And I think those kind of things, just kind of letting Justin Fields play are the keys to victory for this game. The Raiders barely beat the Patriots. Of course, Josh Jacobs being a highlight on that team, Jimmy Garoppolo being a game manager. It's not easy. It's not going to be an easy game for either team. I could definitely see this breaking the over of 37.5. But with bad defenses, I feel like they could definitely play up to this game, and it could easily be a 17-10 type score. Last football matchup I'm taking a look at today, we have the Miami Dolphins, 5-1. They beat the Panthers last week, 42-21. Taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, also 5-1. They lost to the Jets last week, 20-14. That was a very poor showing from the Eagles. Jalen Hurts' tush push finally got stopped. I'm sure a lot of people were happy about that. I really don't care one way or the other. With the Eagles playing bad, I'm honestly surprised the Dolphins aren't favored here. They're plus 105 on the money line, with the Eagles being minus 125. It's an over-under 52.5. Both teams let scores happen. I mean, the Panthers scored 21 on the Dolphins, and they're 0-6 now. And the Eagles proved that they're going to let the Jets score touchdowns on them. So everybody can score in any game. Philadelphia's got a line of minus 1.5. Once again, I think the over is going to hit here. Tyreek Hill only needs 186 yards to break 1,000 receiving yards for the season. He could do that in week 7, but it's more likely that he'll do that by week 8. He's on a historic pace right now. And honestly, Jalen Hurts looks to brush off the loss against the Jets and make the Dolphins have a shootout against him. I think the best way that either team wins is using their high-powered offense to their advantage. The defenses aren't what's going to win the games here. I think getting the ball in the hands of Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, for the Eagles, Smith, everybody, Smith and Brown. Everybody here is going to need the ball. We're going to have a high-scoring game. I pick the Dolphins. Christian picks the Eagles. Let's see what happens. All right, so Christian's tummy hurts, so I didn't get his bets quite yet. But my 5 bets for this week: Khamzat Chimaev, money line, minus 280. Alexander Volkanovski, money line, plus 210. Miami Hurricanes, money line, plus 175. The Chicago Bears, money line, plus 135. And the Miami Dolphins, money line, plus 105. Fade these bets if you want to. I'm not really concerned. I've just been about gotten to 50% after starting at about 70%, but that's just how the cookie crumbles. Season 0 ends in December when January we kick off Season 1 of the full-fledged split decision betting portion of the podcast, where we'll be looking at units, taking it way more seriously, and providing a little bit more insight. But for now, you can just live with these. All right, so with Christian out, we're going to do top 5 solo. So we talked about, before he got sick, we talked about top 5 rich people, because we were going to be in Abu Dhabi for the UFC fights this weekend. So I put together, not a draft. Why? It is a draft. I just get to draft all 5 of mine. If he wants to put his name in the hat, he can just pick whatever's left. So my number 1 rich people is going to be Elon Musk. He's founded Tesla, SpaceX. He's made a bunch of profits through electric vehicles, space exploration. Just really cool stuff for me. And he's a real guy. You know, he's been on Joe Rogan's show. He gets out there. He's bought Twitter. Overall, great. Just doing whatever he wants type of guy. Leading right into that for my number 2 brings me to whatever you do, whatever you want kind of guy. Tony Stark. Yeah, of course he's fake. He's from the Marvel Comics. He's Iron Man. But he's built Stark Industries. He's got advanced weapons technology. He's Iron Man. Again, you know, you've probably seen the movie. Billionaire, playboy, philanthropist. It's fantastic. Going through everything for him, it's pretty easy to pick that as one of the top 5s. Like the comics, like the character. Robert Downey Jr. was him in the movies. Pretty solid. Bill Gates is my number 3. Co-founder of Microsoft. He's gotten wealth from all the Microsoft products, but there's just a cool history behind him. You know, he's one of those guys that founded the company in his garage and then kicked a whole bunch of people out, amassed billions of dollars, and now is, tied to Epstein. So holler at that. My number 4 is another fictional person, Mr. Montgomery Burns. He's from The Simpsons. He is the owner of the Springfield nuclear power plant. Mr. Burns' wealth is being earned through the ownership of said power plant, but he uses questionable and unethical business practices. He's just a great guy in the show through and through. He's kind of a force to be reckoned with. Lastly, not for any reason to be last, just it's my list so I can put him wherever I want. Joe Rogan, number 5, Joe Rogan. He has the Comedy Mothership. He's got the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. He is the host of that. He's a great guy. He'll interview, people who you would never think he would be interested in talking to, but it proves that people want to hear what a lot of different people have to say. Joe Rogan is that guy. He's got that licensing deal with Spotify. It paid him like $100 million. So there you go. Those are my top 5 rich people. Let us know who your rich people are, or if you have any top 5 ideas, let me know. we'd be more than happy to, consider using that as a top 5 for the show. All right, thanks for listening to this episode of Split Decision. Check us out next week when we recap UFC 294, and then we look ahead to UFC Vegas 82, Almeida versus Lewis. Once again, check us out at splitdecisionpod.com to get all of our recent episodes, our merch, our UFC picks, our football picks, our NFL, NCAA picks, and more. And don't forget to shop for your gis, your rash guards, and all your jiu-jitsu needs at elitesports.com. Thanks again, guys. Bye.